Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, it's the guy Panama Fargo back to y'all live with another episode of the Raider Rundown. And today, man, we are going to be talking about the Raiders' need to go all in on the defensive side of the ball, right? I'm all in, push all the chips to the table, right? And what pass rushers could we be interested in? Got a little information, a little tidbit that I want to share with y'all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the intro started and let's get the show cracking.
Young guy, I had a dream that someday I would build the finest organization in professional sports.
What is the deal, Raider Nation? Once again, it's another episode of the Raider Rundown. Make sure y'all tap it on the like and the subscribe button. And please hit on the little notification bell so you get updated whenever I drop episodes like this one right here. But like I was saying, man, we had to go over why the Raiders need to go all in on the defensive side of the ball, right? And who they could be interested in. Now, this video right here comes to you because, you know, your boy keep his ear to the streets, right? I always like to see little tidbits that some of the people got going on around the team, some people who are more connected than I. So at the end of the day, right, the news I'm hearing is that the Raiders wanting to trade for a DN is 100% true. Okay, they are definitely looking at trading for a DN. Now, part of the story, if you guys remember, I told y'all last week that the Raiders were more inclined to do a player-for-player swap, right? I have now heard that is not all entirely true. Okay, I have now heard that although their preference is to not give up draft capital, and they rather not, because regardless of what you say, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are operating along the lines like they are going to be here in a number of years, right? So at the end of the day, they're not going to do anything that jeopardizes the future of the team. So regardless of if you like them, if you don't like them, if you like Josh or not, you have to respect the fact that this front office is trying to do what's best for the team in the long run. All right, regardless if your feelings of Josh McDaniels and the front office is negative, you have to respect that fact because there's been a lot of bad coaches we've had that have, one, been bad on the field, and two, fucked us in the front office for years to come, right? So I have to respect that fact. But as I was saying, the report initially said that the Raiders wanted to do a player-for-player swap, right? They really didn't want to give up any draft capital. I'm now hearing that that's not entirely true. They are willing to give up draft capital if that player fits within the future mold of their plans, okay? Now, think about this. Devontae Adams. You trade for Devontae Adams, that is a first-round pick. Now, I think we all can agree that Devontae Adams was definitely worth a first-round pick, right? Like, that's a guy that we knew when he came in here, he was going to give immediate production, and that's the shit I'm talking about when I'm talking about going all in for this defense. Okay, we have yet to do it for that side of the ball. I think I won't get any pushback on that. Some of you may disagree, but we have yet to sit there and say we're going to make a splash move that tells us, okay, we're trying to really, really invest in this defense. When we traded for Devontae Adams, we knew what time it was, right? We all knew what type of player we're getting. We all knew what he was going to give us in the future or hopes. But at the end of the day, regardless of it, he came in here and was worth that first-round pick and definitely fits into the future mold of the Raiders' plans, okay? He definitely fits into the future mold. Now, the Raiders definitely want to give up a player for player, but like I said, they'll give up draft capital if that player, one, contractually fits into their long-term plans, and two, is a great locker room fit, and three, somebody who's going to be worth that amount of draft capital that we are going to give up if it's high, right? So there's a number of guys, to me, that fit in that mold of what we're talking about and who we really want to acquire and who you want to bring in to be a long-term solution in here. Not just somebody you get for a quick fix, right? And that's the thing I think the Raiders need to avoid. They need to avoid getting another pass rusher over 30 years old like they did with Chandler Jones, right? That wouldn't be a good move to me. If you're going to make a move, especially during the season, to me, if you're going to trade for somebody, it needs to be somebody that's not only going to help you this year, but in years in the future, right? I think that's the smart play. Now, when we look at that, who fits upon that mold. Now, I said we're going to look at some pass rushers. And let me grab my cellular device. I want to go ahead and look at some pass rushers we can potentially bring in to the Raiders organization. Now, when you talk about trading for pass rushers, keep in mind, yes, a player for player swap, but keep in mind everything I just told you, right? They're looking for somebody, if they are going to spend high draft capital, and they're going to look for somebody who will fit the mold of the Raiders' future plans. The number one name, we're going to go through a list of people, but the number one name I have in my head when I hear that, Brian Burns. That is my number one name, right? Because you talk about a guy who's young. You talk about a guy who is very, very talented at rushing the passer, right? And somebody who is looking for a new contract and a new deal. Okay, now it's going to take some finagling as part of the Raiders, right, to get within the cap space to be able to acquire a Brian Burns, right? Because it's looking like his cap space will take you damn near $15 million, $15 to $18 million, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact math. Okay, but at the end of the day, right, I'm going to look up what Brian Burns' age is and the stats right now, right? Brian Burns annually is making $16 million a year, okay? He is 25 years old right now. We were born in the same year. That's crazy. Same age. He's 25 years old right now, looking for a new deal, okay? Now, let's look up his stats. That's what I want to see right now. As far as his stats, he's sitting there with 4 sacks on the season, right? 4 sacks. What does Max have right now? That's 5. What did I say we need to do when we brought up the video of actually being serious and acquiring a pass rusher, somebody who can come in here and provide immediate impact? Brian Burns is a guy who has 4 sacks by himself. Max Crosby is a guy who can get 5 to maybe 12 sacks by himself. Same with Brian Burns, right? We need another guy in here. If you're actually serious about getting some pass rush help, a guy who can win one-on-ones consistently. And that's a guy Brian Burns is, right? That would be the type of player you get. Only 25 years old. You get him. Great locker room guy from everything I've heard. Hard worker. Somebody that's going to come in here, him and Max. Woo! That's a scary ass duo. Scary ass duo. And I love it. So that would be my first name. If you're talking about all the parameters, we're talking about Brian Burns. Second name, Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, now, when you look at that, he's 28 years old. All right, 28 years old. We're sitting here saying, okay, we're looking for somebody who's going to give us years of production. 28, although for a pass rusher may start to get on the older side, you may be able to get you about 3 years of good production with Danielle Hunter. My bad, Danielle Hunter, right? And you have to think, what are their plans with Tyree? They have to assume and they have to be thinking within the building that Tyree Wilson is going to get better and better and better. So maybe their plan isn't to bring in a younger guy. It's a guy that can probably fill again the Chandler Jones role. Somebody you can get in here for a nice little short period of window, 2-3 year contract, right? And then when Tyree's ready to really bust and take over, right, he starts taking more of the snaps. So Danielle Hunter is a guy that, to me, you can bring in and you can now ease kind of Tyree Wilson into his assumed role that we all assume he's going to have. Another thing, I'm not going to say it's damn near really is similar, but Danielle Hunter and Tyree Wilson kind of have a similar body structure, right? Similar body structure. If Tyree Wilson was to put on a few more pounds, I think with another off-season training, him actually knowing how to train for the NFL offseason or an NFL season, him and Danielle Hunter kind of have a similar little body type. That'd be a guy Tyree Wilson can really learn from, right? When you talk about similar body types, not similar athleticism, but at the end of the day, right? Somebody you might be able to learn, okay, how do I do certain things here at this, weight or at this height? How would I be able to do certain things with my hands? Certain shit, right? And I think that would be my second choice if you were going to get a DN to come in here and give you immediate production. So right now, I'm looking at Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter. My third choice would be Leonard Williams, and I'm pushing that agenda. Why would I want Leonard Williams? One, he can play a multitude of spots on that D-line, inside, outside, right? And we've been clamoring for years. We need inside help. This would be a guy that's very versatile and be able to move inside for us, right? So that's another guy right there. Number 2, he already has worked with Patrick Graham, right? He's already worked with Patrick Graham. So this is a guy right here, still under 30, right? That knows the system we're already running. So there's no learning curve. Okay, there might be just a tad learning curve because he's with a different system now, but he's already been with Patrick Graham. And Patrick Graham already knows how to utilize the skill. So that's another thing, right? Number 3, most important of all, he's a Raiders fan or was a I don't think that ever goes away. I think he's a Raiders fan. All right. So that's most important. You bring a guy who actually wants to wear these colors, a guy who wants to be here, right? Contract may be a little thing to be something weary of, right? Because he's making a lot of money. Once again, just like Brian Burns, you're gonna have to move some shit around. But at the end of the day, like I said, the Raiders need to go all in on this defense. And let me give you the rundown on why I think the Raiders need to go all in and why I'm giving you these high-profile names. Okay? We're seeing what this Raiders defense is finally doing after years and years of suffering. 19 points a game you're giving up to your opponents. All right? The lowest total points per game that I personally have seen a Raiders defense give up in quite some time. I think that this defense is the driving force of this team right now. And still they're the driving force with making half of the money the offense is making. It is time to put the investment in. I feel we are close, right, on this defense, right? We're close to becoming what all of us want us to become. But in order to crack that top 15, we're going to need some more pass rush help, right? There's more dominance to be had from this defense. And as good as they've been, there are better offenses we're about to face, right? And I think, although the offense is partly to blame why some of the struggles has happened on defense, still, the defense can very, very well have a positive impact with another guy rushing the passer. I know some of you love Malcolm Koonce. I like Malcolm Koonce, but he is not a 3-down DN, right? Some of you will push back and say, yes, he is. He's playing all 3 downs. Out of necessity, he's playing all 3 downs. In a perfect world, Malcolm Koonce will be playing a rotational pass rusher role. Why do I say that? He's not very good against the run. He's inconsistent at times there, right? So at the end of the day, you can't very well be a 3-down DN if you don't play the run well. Does he get pressure? Yes, he does. But it's not to the point where you can sit him out there like you do a Max Crosby and say he can play every snap or damn near 80% of the snaps. That's just not where we're at, right? I think he would be better suited for a rotational pass rusher role. You bring a guy like Danielle Hunter in here. Now you can have him rush the passer, bring Danielle out at certain times, and let Malcolm Koonce really hunt and eat, right? Tyree Wilson comes and rotates with that. You bring a guy like Leonard Williams in here, right? He helps the D tackle room. Okay, he helps the D tackle room. Now you can switch people out. Jonathan Jenkins don't need to play as much, right? He can focus on stopping the run, although him and Adam Butler have played tremendous. But at the end of the day, there's never anything wrong with adding some more hogs up front. Never. So at the end of the day, that would create more havoc right there in the middle of our defense, right? Now, and he can also play the DN spot when we need him to. Not full time, but he can definitely play the DN spot when we need him to. Now, if you're really talking about a guy who could just rush the passer, and that's what you're looking at, Danielle Hunter, or if you bring in Brian Burns in here, you know what he's going to do. Now we have a guy that we can really sit there and say, yeah, he's about to rush the passer, and he can sit there for 3 downs. And at the same time, we still have a rotational guy like Malcolm Koonce, who you bring in and can now still rush the passer, right? Now you can have some type of NASCAR package. So this is the thing. And you can play Tyree with Brian Burns, with Danielle Hunter. There's a multitude of things you can do if you get another pass rusher. But that's the thing. We need to go all in. And this front office needs to show not only the fan base, but the guys on the defensive side of the ball that they are willing to invest in them. Because after there's been too long that we've had cool defensive players, but we're not willing to invest. You have a top flight defensive player of the year candidate to me on your defense. You must reward him with some type of help. All right. And yes, he's a one-man wrecking crew. But at the end of the day, if they're in the front office, you have to say we have to give our guys some help. Right? Because look what he's doing by himself. If this man gets another pass rusher with him, it's going to be fucking over. And now we can start talking about him like now everybody else can talk about Max Crosby as we talk about Max Crosby, right? Get with more help, he will shine more. And that's exactly what we're saying, right? That's exactly what we need. But let me know down below, how do y'all feel about the Raiders trading for a pass rusher? How do you feel about some of the notes I've told you today, right? Who fits your mold? Who do you want the Raiders to trade for? Let me know down below. Let me know if you agree, disagree with anything I've said in this video. Let's talk about it down below. And remember, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because when I got information like this, you're not going to want to miss a second of that. So make sure you hit all the buttons, man. Share out the content, man, to your family, to your folks. Go ahead. If they're a Raider fan, bring them into the family, man. Bring them into the network, and let's get it cracking. Remember, hit all them buttons, and you know I keep it authentic from the clouds to the ground on the Raider Rundown.
I need a bad bitch with an accent, serving in peace, still taxing. Just got tapped for the young cash app, moonwalking like a young Mike Jackson. Yeah, shots to the head, ride clean and still fuck feds. Realest nigga and it's on my kids, so who the fuck gon' wanna test me, bitch?